I'm Ann Montgomery, Editor-in-Chief of Bioprocess International magazine. I'm here with Carsten Voß, who's an application scientist with Biorad Laboratories. I'd like to begin with your general impressions of the evolution of downstream processing. What changes have you seen in the past 10 years?
If you look at downstream processes, chromatography is still the method used for biopurification in the biopharma environment due to its unique selectivity. But although I think chromatography technically is still chromatography, there has been some developments which have been adapted by industry in the recent years. For example, if you look at process development and with respect to screening resins and screening conditions, miniaturization and high throughput screening have been widely adapted in the industry, and this is probably not only due to the fact that this is a very convenient and efficient method to identify good resins and good conditions, but it also offers companies to identify design spaces for their purification, and this goes hand in hand with initiative from regulatory authorities like Quality by Design initiative. So that's certainly one point that has been coming up in the last 10 years. We're also seeing adaptations of new technologies because companies are now rather looking into reworking their processes, optimizing, doing process optimization and improving process efficacy. And there are a couple of technologies which people are now looking at. And this is, for example, process automation or continuous chromatography. And next to it is also, with respect to process efficacy, is the utilization of new interaction principles that are coming up in the recent years.
What is the most difficult unit operation in developing a downstream process?
I think the most challenge lies probably upfront in downstream processing, where you have the challenge of clarification of your cell growth. This can be a rather tedious job with the different filtration operations there, but it's still manageable. With respect to chromatography, I think all types of chromatography are in principle scalable. It just depends on the resin you're using. So if you've got a good process resins with good pressure stability, then this is really not a challenge.
Is there a purification step that is more difficult to scale up than others?
I would say no, because if I look at classical unit operations like filtration, they're easily scalable by increasing the surface area of filtration units. If you look at chromatography, of course, you can increase the column diameter to a certain size there. And if, as outlined before, if you have capable resins which are very pressure stable, this is certainly not an issue to even go into bigger columns there. And typical bed heights are up to 20 centimeters, so this works well. If you're having purifications with older resins that were not originally designed for process scale purification, this can become difficult. So there are a couple of old resins still in processes you will find that are very susceptible to pressure drops. They shrink there under increased pressure. And then when you have to go down with flow rate, and then your process gets very inefficient, and that can be a challenge there. So my recommendation for this kind of operation is usually to rework these old processes and try to substitute the old resins with more state-of-the-art materials.
Speaking of the state-of-the-art materials, what new tools and technologies do you feel are the most promising to look at these days?
With respect to the operation mode, I think what is most interesting coming up is certainly continuous chromatography, which got a lot of interest in the last years. With respect to chromatographic materials, I think we have intriguing results by mixed mode chromatography resins, because mixed mode chromatography materials, they offer very different types of chemistry in the ligand molecules, and this results in different types of selectivity and also different conditions to apply there. And we're yet at the beginning of understanding the structure-function relationship of these molecules. So mixed mode is not as straightforward as, for example, an ion exchanger. but that's something that's now resolved. So people like Giorgio Carter and Steve Kramer, they're working on characterizing the functionality of these resins and how they interact with proteins, and we're really seeing good progress on that, and that's rather an intriguing development.
Thank you for taking the time to talk with me today, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your conference.
Thank you very much, and you're welcome.